Hello, my dear friends. Today I will be your English teacher. My name is Kурмашева. And have a look at the board, please. So, what can you see on the picture? Right you are. It is desert. What can you say about this picture? Right here we can see a white bear. So probably it is North Pole. This picture is rainforest. And have you ever wondered why one area of the world is a desert, another is covered with ice, and another is a grassland? Have you ever thought about this? And can you tell me please, what are these different forests and deserts? And why are there different types of life in each area? So, and probably you have already guessed the topic of our lesson is climate. But have a look at this picture. What else are we going to talk about? Only climate? Right you are. So we can see the hand of a doctor. Probably we will talk about climate and health today. What are our learning objectives? So learning objective 1 is to develop students' ability to communicate their opinion on and reaction to a text video. To develop students' ability to negotiate in a group and work as a team. Number 3 is to develop students' ability to discuss what climate changes are appropriate for people's health. The next objective is to expand students' vocabulary on the modern-day topic of climate and health. And finally, to use linking words in speech and identify the categories of it. Are we ready to start? Let's go. Can you answer some of my questions? Let's organize a kind of class discussion. What climatic area of the world do you live in? What are the features of this climate? Do you have rainforest, desert? And what kind of climate do you have? Is it warm, cold? Interesting. Next question. Do you think climate affects people's personalities? Can you give examples? Okay. And our next question. What would be your idea of a perfect climate? Can you give examples? If you had a chance to make a climate of your wish, what kind of climate will it be? Interesting answers. And have a look at the screen. We have some new words and word expressions for you. Please keep writing in your vocabularies the word and the definition, and probably you will get the meaning of these words as well. So the first one is greenhouse gas. It means that the gases which are responsible for causing the greenhouse effect. The main greenhouse gas is carbon dioxide. Did you know about that? The next expression is devastating climate change. It means harmful or damaging climate change. Drought. Pay attention to pronunciation, please. Drought. And to the spelling of this word. D-R-O-U-G-H-T. So it is a long period of time during which no rain falls. Our next word is El Nino. So it's a complex series of climatic changes characterized by the appearance of unusually warm, nutrient-poor water. The next one is hurricane. It is a storm with a violent wind. Next word is malaria. It is a serious disease carried by mosquitoes which causes periods of fever. Our next expression is dengue fever. So it is again a disease of the tropics transmitted by mosquitoes and causing sudden fever and acute pains in the joints. What is emission? Emission, it is the production and discharge of something, especially gas or radiation. Flooding. If flooding occurs, an area of land that is usually dry is covered with water after heavy rain or after a river or lake flows over its banks. We can say flooding and also flood. Sea level. It's the average level of the sea with respect to the land. The next one is global warming. Probably you heard a lot about this that is happening nowadays. So it's a gradual rise in the Earth's temperature caused by high levels of carbon dioxide and other gases in the atmosphere. Now you will hear two friends, Tim and Wendy, giving their views on climate change. Please listen and tick which aspects of climate change each speaker mentions. Probably the words that we have already studied with you could be very useful to understand the meaning of the context or some words. Now let's have a look at the task. So we have two people, Tim and Wendy, and we have 6 different aspects of climate change. They are El Nino, floods and droughts, global warming, greenhouse gas emissions, sea level, and storms. Now let's listen.
Unit 22. Listening. Exercise 1.
Some people say, good, it's great if the world's warming up. We'll have better holidays. But if they stop to think for a second, they'd realise it's serious. I mean, if it gets warmer, it stands to reason that more water will evaporate from the oceans, and surely that means more storms somewhere else. There's evidence that there are more storms, hurricanes and so on, and that they're more intense. Now that more accurate records are kept, we can see that global warming is a fact. Another aspect of global warming is how this will affect the sea level. It'll definitely rise. I read something recently which suggested that the sea might rise by as much as half a metre over this century. You know, because as the ice melts, the oceans expand. Imagine what effect that'll have on low-lying areas around the world. Another thing that gets me is that we know all this, and yet we're not reducing our greenhouse gas emissions anything like fast enough to stop the effects of climate change. We might be able to slow it down a bit, but I think that's all.
I know it seems as if there are more cases of extreme weather like floods and droughts, but I wonder if it's only that we hear about them more than before because of the news on TV and the fact that now it's easier to communicate world events to everyone and very quickly. Surely there's always been severe weather. Storms are a natural phenomenon after all. OK, I admit there is evidence of global warming, but is there evidence to show that that's what's causing severe weather? Wouldn't we have had these hurricanes and so on anyway? I mean, nobody even really knows how storms form and the path they'll take. You see, what it is that the consequences are much greater these days. The world is more densely populated, so in terms of the effect on population and financial loss, the results are more devastating. But perhaps we should study the data more rather than the hype. Everybody's heard of El Niño and La Niña, and I must admit that must be showing something. But from what I hear, the jury's still out on whether it's global warming that's exacerbating events.
Okay, now let's listen again and please make notes about each speaker's views.
Unit 22. Listening. Exercise 1.
Some people say, good, it's great if the world's warming up. We'll have better holidays. But if they stop to think for a second, they'd realise it's serious. I mean, If it gets warmer, it stands to reason that more water will evaporate from the oceans, and surely that means more storms somewhere else. There's evidence that there are more storms, hurricanes and so on, and that they're more intense. Now that more accurate records are kept, we can see that global warming is a fact. Another aspect of global warming is how this will affect the sea level. It'll definitely rise. I read something recently which suggested that the sea might rise by as much as 0.5 metre over this century. You know, because as the ice melts, the oceans expand. Imagine what effect that'll have on low-lying areas around the world. Another thing that gets me is that we know all this, and yet we're not reducing our greenhouse gas emissions anything like fast enough to stop the effects of climate change. We might be able to slow it down a bit, but I think that's all.
I know it seems as if there are more cases of extreme weather, like floods and droughts, but I wonder if it's only that we hear about them more than before because of the news on TV and the fact that now it's easier to communicate world events to everyone and very quickly. Surely there's always been severe weather. Storms are a natural phenomenon after all. OK, I admit there is evidence of global warming, but is there evidence to show that that's what's causing severe weather? Wouldn't we have had these hurricanes and so on anyway? I mean, nobody even really knows how storms form and the path they'll take. You see, what it is that the consequences are much greater these days. The world is more densely populated, so in terms of the effect on population and financial loss, the results are more devastating. But perhaps we should study the data more rather than the hype. Everybody's heard of El Niño and La Niña, and I must admit that must be showing something. But from what I hear, the jury's still out on whether it's global warming that's exacerbating events.
Okay, now let's check your answers. So for team, the words are floods, global warming, greenhouse gas emissions, sea level, and storms. Did you get it? For Wendy's, El Nino, floods, droughts, global warming, and storms. So you can see that some of the words are suitable for both people. Good job. Let's go further. Now the task is to match a word from the list from A to I with a word which collocates the numbers from 1 to 9. So let me read the first column. We have torrential, high, ice, sea, below, long range, squally, zone, force 9. Column 2. Defenses, freezing, forecast, gale, gusts, cap, rain, tide, and layer. So please do the matching. Now let's check your answers. What kind of expressions did we get? Torrential, rain, high, tide, ice, cap, sea, defenses, below, freezing, long range, forecast, squally, gusts, ozone, layer, force 9, gale. Excellent, very good. And what is the meaning of these words actually? If you had some mistakes, don't worry, because now we are going to study these words. Again, please keep writing in your vocabularies. So torrential rain pours down very rapidly and in great quantities. High tide is the time when the sea is at its highest level. Ice cap. It's thick layers of ice and snow that cover the north and south poles. Squally gusts. It's in squally weather there are sudden strong winds which often cause brief, violent storms. Now please complete the weather report with some collocations. Again, we have these collocations like torrential rain, high tide, ice cap, sea defenses, below freezing, long range forecast, squally gusts, ozone layer, and force 9 gale. And the weather report is, let me read. It may be Easter in the UK, but no one seems to have told the weather. The West Coast is receiving a constant battering from a, please guess, which has ripped roofs from houses in Devon and Cornwall. What's more, this is bringing with it, which has caused flood alerts to be issued for some areas. This makes you really believe what they say about their melting. Floods seem to have been a much more common occurrence in the UK over the last year or so. Coastal areas are prone to flooding too, as the spring seas at record levels in the Severn estuary. In this area too have been breached and waves rolled into town centers in some cases. As if all this wasn't enough, night temperatures have been all week leaving gardeners bewildered as to what they should do with their spring plants. Any ideas? Let's check your answers. So, number 1 is force 9 gale. Number 2 is torrential rain. 3 it is ice cap. 4 is high tide. Number 5 is sea defenses. 6 is below freezing. Probably you got all correct answers. Very good job. Now we are going to study the leaflet and to make recommendations to encourage people to reduce carbon emissions. Please use a modal verb and make any other necessary changes in the sentence, and more than one answer is possible. Please have a look at the example. But before we do it, let me tell you that you are going to be assessed by your partner according to the 3 criteria. So the first one is when student makes up not less than 5 sentences. If you did it, please put achieved. If you didn't not, it's working towards. If student doesn't make errors in grammar and in pronunciation, and student uses new vocabulary. So, dealing with global warming, that will be our leaflet. And the verbs that you should use is improve, promote, provide, introduce, discourage, and ban. So, do you? And let me give you an example. We have some gaps, cycle to work, or are the roads too dangerous? So, what kind of sentence can we make? It could be, the government should, pay attention that this is a modal verb, improve roads to encourage bicycle use. Is it clear? Let's start. Use public transport, or is it too expensive? My answer is the government should improve public transport and make it cheaper. What about you? Make your own sentence. Let's have a look at the next one. Work from home. The government must promote working from home. What's your ideas about this statement? The next sentence. Use disposable batteries. My idea is the government ought to ban the use of disposable batteries. What about you? Next one. Receive environmental education in schools. The template for this statement is the government should improve environmental education in schools. But probably we have even a better answer than me. What about the next one? Buy water in plastic bottles. The answer could be the government must discourage water in plastic bottles. Next one. Own an electric or non-polluting vehicle. So the government ought to promote electric or non-polluting vehicle. What about your sentence? Probably you have already checked the work of your partner, so please assess according to the criteria. 5 sentences without errors in grammar and pronunciation and the usage of new vocabulary. Well done, very good. Now we are going to watch a video, but before we do it, let's divide you into groups. You are going to watch 2 short films commissioned by the World Health Organization, which investigate the health impacts of climate change. Please answer the questions and provide group assessment. So each group will have different video and different questions, and you are going to assess each other. The criteria for assessment are: number 1, the group was able to answer all questions. If the group did it, please put achieved. The group made only 1 pronunciation mistake. The group made only 1 grammar mistake. And the group made only 1 spelling mistake. Before we watch the film, let me present you the questions for the group number 1. According to the film 1, your questions are: what is the first film about? What does global warming create? What does climate change create, having an impact on our health? What are the reasons of death of many people? What can health services do to combat health risks? How do you understand the phrase, "It's not too late to make a difference"? And the questions for group 2 according to the film 2. What is the second film about? What does damage our planet and our health? What are the causes of outdoor-indoor air pollution? How could be the use of cars reduced? What will we achieve in this case? What do physical activities lead to? And what, or maybe who, will benefit after reducing our carbon footprint, and how? And now, let's watch the video.
The relationship between human beings and germs, microbes, bacteria, viruses, is profoundly affected by climate.
Climate change affects the natural processes which we depend on for our survival: food, air, water, physical protection, and constraints for infectious diseases. Health hazards from climate change are diverse and global. It will be very difficult to revert their impact on our human health. The climate is indisputable that is changing, and this will have a human cost. In 2003, the disastrous heat wave that occurred in Europe killed 70,000 people. But lessons were learned, and the heat plans put in place in France in 2006 helped us to avoid over 4,000 deaths.
There is a direct linkage between global warming and increased threats to human health. Solving the climate crisis can help to improve human health.
More than 25% of the global burden of diseases could be prevented by investments in our environment. Many diseases are linked to energy consumption and transport systems. And by changing those transport system and energy consumptions, we can reduce climate change and at the same time produce a lot of health benefits. It is not just a transfer where we will make a difference. Alternative energy sources will produce a lot of health benefits. The amazing thing is that challenging climate change is cost effective. The money we can save by reducing the healthcare cost caused by environmental risk, like respiratory diseases and air pollution, will exceed the cost of addressing those environmental risks.
Okay? And now let's read a text about global warming, which consists of 8 sentences. Please decide which answers A, B, C or D best fits each space. Pay attention to example, please. Few people now hesitate, question, disagree or maybe concern the reality of global warming and its effects on the world's climate. So you can see that the appropriate answer here is question. Few people now question the reality of global warming. So this is just a kind of multiple choice test for you. So, and the first question is, many scientists give, would take, have the blame for recent natural disasters on the increase in the world's temperature. What ideas do you have? What is the answer? So the answer is many scientists put the blame. So to put the blame for natural disasters. Next question. They're convinced that more than once before, the Earth is at threat, danger, risk, or maybe harm from the forces of the wind, rain, and sun. Of course, the answer is to be at the risk from the forces of the wind. Question 3. Concerning, regarding, depending, according to them, global warming is making extreme weather events such as hurricanes and droughts. What is the appropriate answer? According to them, right? You are. Next question. Environmental groups are putting force, pressure, persuasion, maybe encouragement on governments to take action to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide. Any ideas about the suitable answer? It is pressure. To put pressure on something. In this case, governments to take action. Number 5 is they are in belief, request, favor, suggestion of more money being spent on research into solar, wind and wave energy devices. What's your answer? The answer is favor, to be in favor of more money. Number 6, the answer is already provided for you. Let's have a look. Solar, wind and wave energy devices could replace existing and power stations. So I would like you to write down this expression, power stations, not factories, generations or houses. Question 7. Some scientists, but, although, despite or maybe however, believe that even if we stopped releasing carbon dioxide and other gases into the atmosphere tomorrow, we would have to wait 100 years to notice the results. What is the appropriate word that is missing here? It is D, however. So it's the meaning is but. And you can see that that was an example of some linking words. What are the linking words? Linking words show the logical relationship between sentences or parts of a sentence. And there are different categories of linking words. Let's have a look at some of them, and then let's do some practice. The first category is positive addition. For example, she is clever and rich. So, and, it is a linking word of positive addition. Next one is negative addition. Neither Barry nor Kevin knows how to drive. Barry doesn't know how to drive, nor does Kevin. So we can see that neither and nor are the linking words of negative addition. However, is a linking word of contrast. For example, riding a bicycle may not be as comfortable as driving a car. However, it is much more environmentally friendly. Similarly, the linking word of similarity. For example, A glass of milk before you go to bed may help you sleep. Similarly, a hot bath could do the trick. Even though is a linking note of concession. For instance, he carried on playing until the end of the game, even though he had a broken toe. And on the other hand, or are the linking words of alternative. You could tell her the bad news. On the other hand, you could let her find out herself. The next linking word is the linking word of emphasis. What is more? For example, I'm afraid you are not qualified for this job, and what is more, you are far too young. The next classification is exemplification, and the linking word of it is, for example, in particular. And the sentence is, all the performers were good, but Pavarotti in particular was magnificent. Clarification, specifically, is an example of this linking word. For example, she is angry. Specifically, she is angry at you. Now that is a linking word of course or reason. For instance, she decided to order a salad now that she had started her diet. Linking word of a manner is how. The coach explained how the team could beat their opponents. And in the event that and in case are the linking words of condition. For instance, the travel agency will contact you in the event that your flight is changed. If so is a linking word of consequences of a condition. For example, you may be caught by the enemy. If so, tell them nothing. And in case is a linking word of purpose. Make a note of our appointment in your diary in case you forget about it. The next classification is effect and result. And the linking word of this part of linking words are as a consequence. For example, he was the only child of a rich banker, and as a consequence, he was very spoiled. Nothing like the linking word of comparison. For example, her second novel is nothing like her first. Next characteristic is time. For example, whenever. I like to visit the cathedral whenever I am in Durham. And wherever is the linking word of place. Park your car wherever you want to. What about exception? An example is apart from. We had a lovely holiday apart from that one day when it rained. And whose is the linking word of relative. There is a man whose house was burned down. And the chronological characteristic, the linking words could be first of all, then, finally. For example, first of all, I would like to thank my mother. Then, I must thank everyone involved in making this wonderful film. Finally, I want to thank you, my fans. What about the reference? Considering and with reference to. Considering all the evidence, we find the accused not guilty. I am writing with reference to your report on Wales. Linking words of summarizing category is to sum up. To sum up, the government must spend more money on public services. And we can see an exercise. You're given a linking words that you can see in the table, and there are 5 categories. Please add linkers from the box to the correct category. The categories are ordering ideas, introducing an idea, addition, contrast, and concession. You have 4 minutes to do this task. Okay, and now let's check your answers. The linking words for ordering ideas are to begin with, secondly, and finally. Introducing an idea, it means concerning, regarding. Addition is not only but, in addition to, moreover, furthermore, even. The category of contrast, the linking words are on the other hand, and concession in spite of, while, having said, that, and nevertheless. Now you are given a text which is about the weather that can affect your mood. Please complete the text with linking devices from the boards. You can see that there are linking devices like because, contrary to, however, whereas, on the other hand, and indeed. And the text is, on the other hand, some people say they feel dull and gloomy when the weather is grey. Others say they feel cozy and secure when they are inside on grey days, reading in front of the fire. It is true to say that highest levels of light do raise the spirits. You know yourself when you wake up and it's sunny, you feel brighter. When you wake up and it's dull, you feel sluggish. So please fill in the gaps. Let's have a look at the answers. So it's on the other hand, however, and whereas. Let's continue our exercise. Interestingly, recent research has shown that popular belief, people are more creative in colder climates. For example, more inventions have been made by people living in colder climates than in hotter ones. It could be that they stay at work longer. The weather is so awful outside. What are the answers for this? So it's contrary to, indeed, and because. Now I would like to tell you that it's not too late to make a difference, and please complete the words in the third column. They are all nouns which describe changes in quantity, and the first letters are already given to you. Indicate with an arrow if the change is upwards or downwards. Have a look at the screen. Their worth has been a minimal, slight, small, gradual, steady, marked, significant, steep, sharp, rapid, or sudden. And you have the words with the first letter that is already given for you. And the end of the sentence is in temperature, humidity, rainfall, hours of sunshine, wind speed, the number of storms, the amount of damage, nighttime, and temperatures. Any ideas how to do this? And the answers you can see on the screen. Please check carefully. Now we can say that our climate and therefore our health are under the threat. Everything is in our hands. Please take action, never give up, bring changes and make our planet healthy. Let's do it together. On such kind of encouragement, I would like to end our lesson. Please fill in the self-evaluation sheet. What have you understood? What haven't you understood? What have you learned? And how do you evaluate your skills? And your home task is to write an article about a situation when you experience severe weather conditions, telling the reader how you were affected by them, and please use linking words. And learn new words that you have already written in your vocabularies. This is the list of literature that were used to prepare for this lesson. This is the site where you can find the materials. And thank you very much for your attention. See you very soon. Bye.